Title of this story is, Am I the astronaut for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? What? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing, because life is effing dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. I'm not sure WTF is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not, because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year, and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walked in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently, my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them, yelling, "Enough!" My wife winds back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I told everyone to get the out. Immediately, everyone leaves and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You two, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yep." She packs up her and the baby and they leave. I texted her that night and said I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days, I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I go pack. When I'm done breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take them." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clearly. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this. She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the astronaut for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some effing space. Edited to add, for the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm not on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. Edited to add to the reason why. My dad was physical with me and my siblings growing up. Mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the effing shit out of me. I climb up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone at that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have, but in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom slapped her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back at it now. She was fine, but my mom was bleeding, split her eyebrow open, in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the asshole. I'm going to try to go kiss ass now. Ladies and gentlemen, to help give us some feedback on this story, the one, the only, the Candy Thunder.
Peppered beef jerky.
The real tater in love here. You have peppered beef jerky in your mouth?
No, I did before I got here. His whole "I need to kiss ass and do all this stuff" is completely negated by the fact that he said he's possibly on Reddit for validation for doing what he did. He came to get validated for kicking his wife and his 2-month-old baby out of his house. How do you, and then to say like, "Oh yeah, I did, I realized I messed up, blah, blah, blah." But you came originally for possibly validating what you did to your wife. And I assume that's your wife's house too, and your baby's house too. And you knew if you kicked your wife out, you were kicking your baby out. You abandoned them.
He did.
when she's in the middle of postpartum, the worst part of postpartum, in my 2 times opinion, is that 2-month mark, because people come around less. You're more like the baby's starting to be awake more, like sleep gets all messed up again. That's 2-month mark is a hard freaking part. And your mom set you up and you just took the bait. Like she set this whole thing up. She knew exactly what she was doing and you just walked right into it and gave her what she wanted. And then you didn't choose your wife. Like I can't even, I mean, I would hand him divorce papers too. There's no question about it.
He didn't choose his mother. He chose himself. Like it wasn't a choice. He sent everybody away. But yes, mom absolutely played this.
Yes.
Knowing what trauma he has, knowing that she was going to take advantage of it, knowing exactly what she was doing. And in that moment when your wife needed you to step up and choose her more than any other time before, you chose yourself.
He could have walked away though. Like you don't kick your wife and your baby out of your home when you can very easily walk outside, take a drive, go get your space that you need. You do not abandon your wife and baby.
He wasn't even directly affected in this. He was a bystander, right? Like she was the one that got into this altercation and got baited into this by mom.
She was told that she was fat, that she didn't need to eat, and then she was slapped. So yeah, of course she's going to respond in that situation. And instead of like seeing that could have happened, you didn't take even a breath. You just kicked her out and was like, I can't look at you. I can't see this. I mean, you did the one thing that you promised not to do when you married your wife. And that I don't think you can get that back. I don't think you can kiss ass and make up for what you've done.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony said the mom's response saying that, I mean, she just basically told you she baited you and you fell for it. You can't slap people and tell them they're disgusting and not expect them to respond. That's just crazy. And
they both came from upbringings where they had violent people around. So it's not just a him thing. I mean, it's something that they have in common. And you know, whether you have PTSD from it or not, you don't repel your family. Like if anything, at this point, he needed to step up and protect them, and did the opposite, sent everyone away to protect himself, not physically, mentally, emotionally. But his wife had just been through something, a physical altercation, and he sent her away. And like the most heated time, like that's not the time. It's time to circle the wagons. It's time to make sure that she knows that she's safe. This is her space too. And instead, just sent her away. You, in that moment, could have went up to your wife, hugged her, consoled her, told her how much you loved her, and turned around. Like the situations where you were in were abused and you knew violence. Like you could have saved your wife in that moment because you saw her get slapped. But instead, you just treated her like dirt. Like you treated her like she was nothing. Like only your mental health mattered, not the woman who just gave birth. I mean, what if she had a C-section? Like we don't know that, but you don't slap a woman who just gave birth in the stomach. Come on. So where would you put OP at here, Candy Thunder? I'll let you do the honors. There it goes. We did talk about this. No question. When we have Ask on Ones, I think we're going to start doing something like this. Yeah. We're gonna get this etched, like an Ask on One etched on here. This will be the Ask on One award. There we go. We'll call it the ASSIE Award, something like that. The ASSIE. It's definitely not cool. No. This one is the wife's response to the AITA for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face. I'm so excited for this. I'm still grieving at the loss of my marriage, but my friend had notified me about my husband's post that had too many specific details that were hard to ignore. To clarify, this is my first time on Reddit. I read my soon-to-be ex-husband's post and wanted to give my side of the story and include details that he didn't provide in his post. For those who hadn't read it, long story short, my husband kicked me out of the house after his mother had physically slapped my stomach in front of him, and I punched her in self-defense. I loved my husband dearly, but this lack of action regarding his mother's behavior was extremely disgusting, to say the least. I tolerated his mom's behavior long enough until I couldn't take it anymore, as he had overlooked his mom's behavior over and over again, until finally I had enough. I was still recovering after giving birth to his child when his mom slapped my stomach, and my husband exaggerated when he said it wasn't a hard slap. Sorry, I got lost. The slap itself was hard enough to be heard by everyone in the room. I had lost it at this point when his mother slapped my stomach with a turd-eating smirk that wasn't visible from my husband's point of view. At least that's what my husband claimed. I had a mental breakdown when my husband told me to leave after kicking everyone out of the house. You should have seen his face when he told me to get out, with a straight face and without hesitation. Our baby was crying at this point before I left, and I couldn't do anything but cry that night after I went to stay with my mother. His mother sent me a text mockingly saying, "I'm going to file charges against you for assault, you fat little whore. Now stay the out of our lives." You don't think this was intentional? Bro, come on, man. Come on. Dumbass. I was livid and decided I did not want to be associated with this family anymore and served my husband divorce papers. And as you can guess, he didn't take it well and tried to get me to reconsider. I told him that he overlooked his mother's behavior one too many times and that I was done with him and his inability to establish boundaries with his mother. I recommended setting boundaries, but he didn't think it was necessary, even after I told him throughout the pregnancy about the nasty names his mother called me when he wasn't around, and he always brushed it off. And even though he did tell his mom to stop, she would continue this behavior after a short pause for a while. Before I left after handing him divorce papers, he begged me for another chance and told me he cut contact with his mother permanently. Bullshit. I told him that he is sorry now that I handed him divorce papers and that he was too late to act now that I had decided I wanted out of the marriage. I told him I loved him so much that he should look at it as a sign that if I didn't, then I would have divorced him long ago because he didn't stand up for me multiple times, and I let his mother's snarky comments and behavior slide at my mental expense. I told him he needed help with the trauma because I understand that he is dealing with trauma since he already mentioned his abusive stepdad, but he didn't even realize that his mother hadn't gotten him help for his trauma and that he is still being affected in his adulthood. What I can't understand is why she didn't leave if he needed some space instead of being such a heartless bastard and kicking our child out with me. I've been ignoring his texts and calls ever since, and I'm waiting for a divorce hearing. Something I wanted to point out is that his mother has attributed to his niece's weight gain since she lives with my husband's sister to save money. I, once again, told my husband about his niece's weight gain. It's concerning that she weighs 190 pounds at such a young age, and she was indeed not that weight before. On the day of the incident, I was making the niece's second portion of food, and then my husband's mother came towards me and snatched the plate out of my hands and said, "I'll do it myself. Let me take care of it." And when I tried to take the plate back, his mother said, "I know what to do. You don't know how to properly feed someone as healthy as my grandchild." I was shocked that she thinks that her grandchild's weight was normal for her age. I couldn't take this harassment or abuse any longer, and my breaking point was reached when he kicked me and our child out of the house. Now I need to do what's right for our child because she doesn't need to be in a toxic household where she has to witness the drama going on. My soon-to-be ex-husband wants to do marriage counseling, to which I have refused to do so because I am done. I started to feel slightly guilty with his begging and gaslighting. I just want to be done with him. I blocked him as recommended by my lawyer, but he keeps reaching out through his family, through his other family members and siblings. What should I do to make him go away until the divorce hearing? I don't know that you can make him go away. You just ignore things. When you're doing the right thing, this is one of those situations that's a, if not for you, for your kid, mama bear up kind of thing. And a lot of people go through that where they'll put up with a whole bunch of bullshit, but as soon as their kid is involved, they're like, I'm out. I am out. This guy's so far up his mama's ass that he literally cannot see the world around him without looking through her eyes. He's that far up her ass. He's completely manipulated here. For him to completely change his tune once divorce papers are served and say, "Oh, I'll go no contact with her," the f*** you will. You allowed your mother to destroy your marriage, to destroy your life. You allowed your mother to manipulate you into kicking your wife who had just given birth and your baby out of the house. What makes you think you have the power or ability to cut her off? You've already allowed her to destroy your life. It's a little bit too late here, bro. He needs to. I mean, he needs to start this very long, very painful journey of self-discovery here and breaking the bond that his mom, or the control tether that his mother has over him. Otherwise, he's not going to be a part of his kid's life. And he doesn't realize that yet. Maybe he does. Maybe that's what got him panicking once she handed him divorce papers, because now he's like, oh shit. Now it's on me to be a part of my daughter's life as an independent. There's got to be some kind. I don't know if you can impose some kind of structure about not letting him take your child around toxic grandma without her doing something that warrants some kind of legal off limits structure there. So you still have that to worry about. I would definitely use the slap as assault on her. So maybe you do need to file against her so that you can use that later on to make sure that your kid isn't around this crazy bee.